Let's talk about appraisals. Typically in every transaction, real estate transaction, an appraisal is needed, especially if you have a lender. So most of the time, lenders require an appraisal because they don't want to over leverage your property. They want to make sure the value is actually there, and an appraiser is a licensed and insured third-party vendor that is allowed to give such values on these properties through years of experience and licensing.
We're in Houston right now, walking our new 56-unit crazy property here. It starts down there.
We got Allon, Avgi, billion-dollar man.
Appraisers are a big reason the 2008 financial collapse happened. They used to just slap values on properties and banks would over leverage them with no care in the world. When everything collapsed and the rug was pulled from underneath them, the values didn't hold true and the banks were over leveraged on those properties, which people couldn't make payments on. They took them back, wrote them off on their books, and a lot of people went bankrupt. So banks are heavy, very, very heavy on getting appraisals. Another thing to keep in mind with appraisals is that since they're third parties, you have to pay for them up front. Typically, not always, you have to pay for them up front, and even if the deal doesn't close, that's a lost cost, right? So that expense gets paid up front and then you don't get it back. You don't get that money back if you don't close on the deal. It's something that you're going to have to write off. What many people don't know is that even if you refinance a property, you're going to have to get an appraisal. I'm talking about almost 100% of the time do lenders make you get appraisals. The only time that you're most likely not going to have to get a true full appraisal is if you're buying the property all cash. When selling and the purchaser is getting a mortgage, you're going to need one. When refinancing, the bank is going to require one. There's something else called a BPO, broker's opinion basically. And if the broker gives an opinion of value on the property, this only goes with very specific private lenders, then the lender will accept that in lieu of an appraisal. But that's not typical, and it's only with hard money and private lenders. Now, appraisals don't only happen for homes, they also happen for commercial buildings. For example, I'm buying 9 condos right now, 9 industrial condos to be specific right now, and I had to get an appraisal on every single industrial condo in order to get the financing from my bank. Even though it's a commercial loan, the bank still requires an appraisal, and the loan is up to 70% of the appraised value, or 75% of the purchase price, so whichever is lower. The banks do this to cover themselves, makes total sense, and it speaks for itself. There's nothing wrong with getting appraisals. The only thing that sucks is the cost. So for example, I just ordered 13 appraisals this morning, and I'm paying $850 per an appraisal. It's a lot of money, and that cost will not be recouped if I lose that deal. What do appraisers look for? Typical home appraisers go about a mile radius outside of your house perimeter. So they do a mile radius, right? And they look for similar sized homes, similar square footage, similar bedroom and bathroom count. They look for similar amenities like a pool, a hot tub, a sauna in the house, hypothetically, if that even exists. They look for ceiling heights in commercial. They look for rent rolls if they're using the income approach. So they're going to use the rent minus the expenses, get the net operating income based on the information that's provided to them, and calculate your property based on the income approach. It's all over the charts. Appraisers in today's market are typically very, very detailed and in-depth. If they don't have any local comps, they can go 3 miles out, maybe 5 miles out, and then if it doesn't even go that far, if it goes further than that, like they don't have any comps that far, then they're going to have to get it approved by the lender in order to go even further. Appraisals are very funky in this day and age because most people can get their hands on an appraiser's phone number, right? They can pick up the phone after a Google search, pick up the phone, call a local appraiser and say, hey, I want you to appraise my house. But hold on.
It's not that easy.
Not anymore. Pre-2008 in the financial collapse, maybe that was a thing, but now there's something called an AMC, Appraisal Management Company. What happens is the lender hires the AMC. The AMC has a pool of appraisers that they go to randomly. They randomly pick one, and then that's the appraiser that you're forced to use. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Appraisers do their job. They're licensed for a reason. They want to hold their licenses. They don't want to do anything funky and potentially lose it. The only issue with that is now you're privy to that appraiser's costs, timelines, schedule, etc. So for example, I have an appraiser today. My lender hired an AMC. The AMC hired an appraiser who's got a 10-day turnover, but they're $850 per an appraisal. This AMC also, on another property that I purchased, has hired a different appraiser for half the price with a 2-month turnover. Now I'm paying double the price, but I'm getting the appraisal in 10 days. In the past, I paid half the price and I got the appraisal in 2 months. Typically, I argue with the AMCs now if their timelines don't make sense because you're obligated to meet your contract deadlines. And if your AMC is going to hold up your contract deadlines, you're going to be very upset with them. Because at the end of the day, it's an appraisal. And the bank needs it in order to fund the deal. So you're going to go back to the bank and say, what the hell?
If you say a cuss word, you go to jail.
You know, I have a contract that expires in 3 weeks, and your AMC just quoted us 2 months to get the appraisal back. Hence, why you need a good relationship with your lender or your broker and make them privy to all of these contract deadlines in order to tell the AMC, hey, we need this on rush. Hey, we have up to 30 days. These are our timelines. Please make sure that your appraisers can meet them. In my experience with going to appraisals and getting access to the appraisers themselves, usually the appraiser gets there a little bit earlier, right? Before somebody gives them access. Typically it's homeowners, brokers, purchasers, management companies, and so on and so forth. Somebody hired by someone in order to get the appraiser access to the home. Most appraisers need full access to the homes based on the lender's parameters. Some of them will do outside appraisals, drive-bys they call them.
I'm pulling up on your block quick.
Or desktop appraisals, only if the lender allows them to do so. What usually happens is the appraiser will get to the home before anybody gives them access. They'll do the perimeter of the home, check out the siding, the windows, the roof, the landscape, any masonry work, right? They're going to take tons of pictures and log all that stuff. When you get there, you're going to have to grant the appraiser access into the home. When they get into the home, the pictures don't stop. They're going to check out the flooring, the size of the house. They're going to measure to make sure that everything's aligned, the bedroom and bathroom count. They're going to check out the basement, make sure it's finished or not finished. They're going to check inside and out. It's almost like a home inspection, almost just as detailed, except for the lender's information, and it's to get a value in order to obtain your loan. I also want to touch on one more thing. Appraisals also happen when estate sales go into effect or when someone's preparing their estate. That way that they have a value on the home in order to justify whatever it is on tax obligations and get ready for a potential estate sale, right? So if your super great grandfather is 100 years old and he owns his house, and now he's trying to sort out a value of that house to understand your tax liabilities, what you're going to be able to sell it for, and how to divvy up his estate when he passes away. Then he might hire an appraiser to give him a value that he expects is fair and marketable so he could properly divvy up his estate. I've also seen appraisals happen during divorces. So people don't know their property's value. They hire a third-party appraiser. The appraiser comes in, slaps a value on it, and then they figure out who gets the home during a divorce or how they're going to split up, their holdings. When the appraiser comes to your home, if you're not happy with the value, you gotta use common sense. If somebody walks into your house and it needs $50,000 in repairs, that's directly going to impact what your price per foot is going to look like, what your home's value is going to look like. Also, if you're going to a property, if you own a property and it's just pure land, then it's the land value of the property, right? That's the appraisal. If you're going to get a construction loan, you're typically going to get a loan of the after repair value. Once you build a home, how's it going to look? And then how much is that going to sell price per foot? So appraisers have specialties as well. Most commercial appraisers don't do residential. Most residential appraisers don't do commercial. They don't have divisions either. They're usually one-man or woman shows. They've been doing this for a long time. They specialize in a certain field, and the AMC picks them in order to give your special appraisal. If you're not happy with your appraised value on your home, that sucks.
Man, that sucks!
There's almost nothing you can do about it. It's a real shame, but it is what it is, especially if you're getting a loan or an acquisition loan or a refinance. So what I've seen happen in the past is somebody's going to refinance their home. They think it's worth $1 million. The appraisal comes back at $700,000. How does that affect you? What happens is now the bank's value of the home is $700,000 and not the million you initially anticipated. So they're going to loan to you, say 70% of $700,000, right? $490,000. Now, you were expecting $700,000 in proceeds, but instead you're only going to get $490,000, which, you know, it is what it is, but that's the game we play. Now, if you're selling the home and the appraisal comes in under the value of the home that you're in contract for, this was a big thing in 2020 when prices went through the roof, then you're not going to be able to obtain the loan based on the total purchase price. So what happens is you're going to have to agree to either giving them a price reduction, very common, or you're going to have to do a waiver of appraisal at the contract signing. Because that way you're not privy, you're not locked in to that potential appraisal. So in 2020, what many people did is if they went into contract at $500,000 at their home, they looped into the contract no appraisal contingency. That means that if the appraisal came back at $400,000,
not my problem.
If the appraisal came back at $600,000,
not my problem.
Good for you.
To wrap everything up, home appraisals should take 10 to 30 days. You're going to need to grant access to the home, which is the most important part. The faster you get the appraiser in the door, typically the faster you get the appraisal. I hope you guys learned something in this video. It's super important that you get a grasp on appraisals if you're going to be in the real estate business, and I understand that it's very important to understand how appraisals will look and act and the process of it all if you're selling your home. Thank you for tuning in. Go to my Instagram if you want to see more content similar to this one but much shorter form. Share this with a friend. If they're buying, selling, or refinancing a home, they should definitely know what they're getting into from an appraisal point of view. And with that being said, until next time, my friends, thank you.